If you love chilling mysteries, unsolved cases, and a touch of mom-style humor, Moms and Mysteries is the podcast you've been searching for. Hey guys, I'm Mandy.
And I'm Melissa. Join us every Tuesday for Moms and Mysteries, your gateway to gripping, well-researched true crime stories. Each week, we deep dive into a variety of mind-boggling cases as we shed light on everything from heists to whodunits. We're your go-to podcast for mysteries with a motherly touch. Subscribe now to Moms and Mysteries wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Let's Dig Deeper, a podcast devoted to exploring life through the lens of shadow work. I'm your host, Steph Flores, and together we'll journey beneath the surface into the parts of ourselves we often avoid, and the truths that shape how we lead, live, and connect. This is a space for raw reflection, radical honesty, and the kind of conversations that invite transformation. So take a breath, get present, and let's dig deeper. We talk a lot about beginnings, the brave first steps, and we love a good breakthrough, right? The moment things finally click. But what about the space in between? What about the messy middle, the waiting, the uncertainty, the part where you're not who you were, but not yet who you're becoming, the identity confusion, the invisible growth, the silence that feels like failure. So in this episode, we're going to get real about navigating the in-between. So if you're stuck in the middle of a chapter that doesn't have a name yet, this one's for you. Let's be real. You're not at the start, and you're nowhere near the finish. You're somewhere in between, right? You're waking up and you're showing up. And you're figuring it out as you go. And maybe you've left behind a version of yourself that wasn't working anymore. An old job or a toxic relationship, a belief system or a way of living that just stopped fitting. But now you're here. Now you're in a space that doesn't feel familiar, but it also doesn't feel quite like home. This is the in-between. The part where you're making decisions, but the outcomes haven't landed yet. Where you've set boundaries, but the healing hasn't kicked in. Where you've let go of what's not meant for you, but what is meant for you hasn't arrived yet. The in-between is awkward, and it's silent. And at times it can be lonely too. Because here's the truth. The middle doesn't get a clap, right? There's no milestone party for emotional survival. There's no viral quote for just getting through the day. People celebrate the before and the after. They celebrate the glow up, the big decisions, the quote unquote, look at me now story. But rarely do they honor the part where you're just getting up and breathing and trying your best. And that's what this is. This is the part where you're holding on to more questions than answers, where you're showing up without knowing if it's even working, where you're putting in effort you don't know how to even measure. And the wildest part, this is where the real transformation is happening. Not the kind people see, but the kind that only you can feel. The kind that reshapes your nervous system, that rearranges your priorities. It's the kind of transformation that whispers in the quiet to keep going. So, why do we struggle with the in-between seasons? I think as humans, we want things defined. We want things, right, labeled and finished. We want to know where we stand, what the outcome is, and how we're doing. But the middle offers absolutely none of that sometimes. The middle offers uncertainty and it can offer discomfort. It offers waiting, and we've been taught to hate waiting, right? Waiting feels like wasting, like falling behind, like being forgotten. So what do? We rush, we force clarity, and we grasp for control. We try to make decisions just so we can avoid sitting in the tension that the in-between brings us. But here's the thing no one tells you. Clarity doesn't always come first. Sometimes clarity comes through the discomfort, and rushing it can just delay the real work that needs to be done. See, we've built a culture that glorifies hustle and speed. So when we're asked to pause or reflect or simply just be, right? It feels like a punishment. It feels like a punishment for not being better or faster or more productive, right? And stillness gets mistaken for laziness, and confusion gets mistaken for weakness. And we start to question ourselves, even when we're doing the bravest thing we could be doing. And that's holding space for what's unfolding. See, you're not falling apart because you don't have the answers. You're not weak because you're still figuring it out. You're you. You're human, and you're right on time, exactly where you need to be. So let's talk about what happens to your identity in the middle. So you're not who you used to be, but you don't yet feel like who you're becoming. So who are you now? You see, this space, this blur is where old narratives start to fall apart. But no new story has fully taken shape, and that is a scary space sometimes, because we start to question everything. Like, who am I without this job? Or who am I without that relationship? Or who am I now that I've set boundaries or spoken my truth or walked away from what used to define me? Right? You feel untethered, like you're floating in a void. You miss the certainty, even if it was painful, because at least it was something. But here's the beauty in the breakdown. When your identity unravels, you're no longer performing. You're existing. And from that quiet place, something true can grow. So let yourself grieve the old roles, right? Let yourself grieve the roles you've outgrown. Let yourself mourn the version of you that got you through survival. That version mattered, but it doesn't have to be the one who carries you forward. I think what can be frustrating about the in-between is it's not the kind of work, right, that makes it to social media platforms, right? Because it's the work that you do in silence, the decisions to get out of bed, right, when your chest is tight and your eyes are swollen, or the moment you choose not to text the person who hurt you, or the courage it takes maybe to delete the email or make the call or walk away or go to therapy or even set the boundary again. See, this kind of work, it rarely gets celebrated. It's not flashy, but it's probably some of the most important work that you'll ever do. Because this is where your character gets rebuilt, where your self-worth gets redefined, not as something you perform for others, but something you anchor in privately. See, you're learning how to sit in discomfort instead of numbing it, right? You're learning how to speak up even when your voice shakes. You're learning how to validate your experience without someone else's approval. And that's the kind of transformation no one sees, but you feel it. So what part of your growth has been invisible to others, but deeply powerful to you? And let's be honest. You're tired. You're tired. You're not tired because you're weak. You're tired because you've been carrying something heavy for a long time without recognition or without any guarantee that it's even leading somewhere. And you're doing the work and you're choosing the healthier patterns. You're staying consistent. You're setting the boundaries and you're saying the affirmations and you're unclenching your jaw and breathing through the chaos, and it still doesn't feel like enough. And it's frustrating. It makes you question why you even started in the first place, right? But hear this when I say it. Doing the right thing doesn't always feel good immediately. Sometimes it feels worse before it feels better because your nervous system is still detoxing from dysfunction. Your body is still recalibrating to safety, and your soul is still catching its breath. And the truth, the middle is where most people quit. Not because they're wrong, but because they're tired. Tired of being in between, tired of hoping, and tired of holding on. And yet, here you are. You're still holding on. And that's not weakness. That's endurance. That's evidence that something in you still believes this is worth it. So what would it look like to stop asking, when will this end? And instead ask what this season is here to teach you. This season might not be exciting. It might not be full of revelations. It might not be full of movement, but that doesn't mean it's meaningless. Maybe your biggest breakthrough won't come with a bang. It'll come with a breath. A single, quiet moment where you realize, I'm still here. I'm still me. And that's enough. So let go of the pressure to perform your healing. Let go of the need to turn the season into content, right? Let go of the guilt that says, I should be further along. You are exactly where you're meant to be. Not stuck. Rooted. Not behind, building, and not lost, but becoming. This isn't a detour. It's the process. So if you're in the messy middle, remember, you're not behind, and you're not forgotten, and you're not failing. You are living a chapter that may not have a name yet, but it matters. And so do you. Until next time, keep digging deeper. Keep choosing you.